I'm Orlando Villarreal, and I want to welcome you to my wood carving studio. I'd like today to share some techniques and different ways to carve a leaf dish. So we're going to carve a pin oak leaf, and what I do is I pick one up from outside right here. This is a real one, and what I do is I take it to my photocopying machine and I lay it in there, and then I come up with, once I print it, I have a silhouette of the leaf. Once I get it that size, the one we're going to do here today it's a lot bigger than that, and the reason for that is so that we can utilize it to put something in there, whether it be flowers or potpourri or anything you would like to put in there. Use it as a candy dish, whatever, but it's large enough to do that with. And here is what I did. I enlarged it, so it's about 15 inches long. So we're going to trace it into the board that we have here. And what I'm using today, it's juniper. It looks a lot like red cedar, same coloration and all. But we're going to take it and trace it into the wood. I have already done that. Okay, we're at the bandsaw station now, and we're going to go ahead and cut the leaf that I drew out on this board. Our next step is to go to the small table over there and rough out this with the arbor tack. Okay, what we've got here is a jig that I made to hold down the leaf so it doesn't move around when we're trying to rough it out. So what I did is I took some 1/2-inch plywood here. I cut out the silhouette of the stem and the front end of the leaf so it fits in there. And then we have a cutout for this end of it. And we're going to place it in there too also. And then push it as tight as you can in there like that. You want to make sure it locks in really good. Once you got, this clamps are already set and tight down. So once you get that pushed in there, we're going to go and tighten this tie down clamps right here and here. And this thing ought to be pretty secure. What I did is I bought the ArborTech kit that installs into a angle grinder that I purchased from Harbor Freight, and so you attach this to your angle grinder, and it's got a little wheel here that's got a couple of carbide teeth. What I'm doing here is dragging the blade across like this, and then what we're going to do is come into the points and come out here. What you're going to try to avoid is not to go with the back end of that like that, because it'll run towards you. You don't want to get hit with this thing, so try to use the center of it and just drag it like the way I'm doing it right here. Okay, we'll stop a minute, and I'm going to switch the fixture around so that we can carve the other side of it. Another thing I want to mention is not to go more than 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. You want to stay at least 1/2 inch to start up with, because the next tool we're going to use we'll take it down a little bit closer to the bottom, okay? So now we're back in the studio here, and we're going to go ahead and start smoothing out what we left behind with the arbor tack. We talked earlier about using a carve eyeball instead of the arbor tack. If you don't have an arbor tack, you could do the same procedures in here that we accomplish with this tool here. This is a carve eyeball, and they make 2 different brands. It's a cut saw, and the saber tooth are the ones we use typically to do the rough out. And it takes a lot longer to do it with this one. That's why I prefer to go with the arbor tack. It's a lot quicker, a lot faster. It'll take you probably 3 times longer to do it with this than it would with the arbor tack. So, but we're still going to have to come in with one similar to this, maybe a little bit smaller. We're going to take that one, and we're going to go through the whole leaf and smooth out all this cuts that are left behind with the arbor tack. Okay, I want to show you something here now that I'm doing. I'm going to go all the way to the edges now. Remember that we left a quarter of an inch, an eighth of an inch to a quarter of an inch on the edges and an inch on the ends. We want to now, I'm going to show you how I bent this edges down. Okay, what we're going to do next is we're going to take and turn the dish over, the bottom side up, and what we're going to do is chamfer the edges and taper them down a little bit on the edges. And we're going to do that all the way around except for the stem. We wait for that till later on because that's probably the most fragile piece out of the whole leaf. And so we wait to do that till the end. And we're going to use a rotor zip. You folks are probably familiar with a rotor zip. They use them to, it's a tool used to make receptacle holes on the wall for electrical outlets. When I come into a valley type area like this in here, we kind of go around in one pass and try to make a smooth cut in there and try to go. What I'm trying to do is go from the bottom almost all the way up to the top when I'm tapering that edge right there. The tool is pretty handy. As you can see, it's removing wood pretty fast. Otherwise, it would take you a lot longer. I can show you other ways that we can do this with. Okay, one of the things I wanted to point out when I was doing that, using this tool, if you notice, I always kept anchored down. And what I mean by that is I'm always holding my hand down onto something so that I can anchor myself. In case I slip with this tool, this is where how far we're gonna go with that. We stop right here. You don't want to use it like this where you don't have any anchoring, because once you lose anchoring position, you're going to lose control of the tool. So you got to be real careful with this tool. So just make sure, if you notice, almost all the tools that I'll be using, power tools I'll be using, I'm always anchored down, or whether I'm doing with this hand like this, just in case I slip, this is how far you're going to go with that tool. You don't want to slip and cut yourself with it. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're power carving, always anchor yourself. So we're going to go ahead and promised to show you that I was going to do it with a different tool there, and that's what we're going to try next. What we got here is a 1-inch drum sander that I installed to my tool here. And then we're going to go, the reason I'm using a large one, I'm trying to cover as much area as I quickly can. And then also, after we use that big one, we won't be able to get in those tight areas in there, so we're going to go with a smaller one, which is a small drum sander, heart drum sander, that we're going to go in there and try to get in the tight areas. And then proceed to using some other smaller tools to get in the tight area valleys right in here, okay? Okay, we'll take the small tool now. Get in there in the tight areas in there. Okay, well, we got that all tapered all the way around, so we're gonna go ahead and flip it over, and then we'll go to the next step, okay? What we're going to do is I took and changed the burr up here. I got a 1-inch ball now, and we're going to take it and try to smooth this down a little better yet. and get all that nice and even so that we can come back and then sand it with the cushion drum sanders. Okay, the next step is sanding. We're going to sand the front surface of the leaf I'm using a 120 grit sandpaper, and we're going to go over the whole top surface, and I'm also going to droop down on the edges like this. You'll see me go down like this, and sometimes you'll see me go from this angle to get in there nicely. Okay, so what we're going to do next is, I just did this side, so we're going to flip it over, sand this whole surface smooth, try to get in here and clean all this up. And then also, in between the lobes there, we're going to go with a tool like this, 750 that we're going to use. That's what we call this one, and we're going to go in there and clean that out because it's hard to get into with anything else. So I use a flame-shaped tool, and I go in there and clean all that out. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go in there, like I said, and get in the lobe areas now that we got everything sanded down smoothly. Okay, what we're going to do next is I drew a line where I'm going to curve the stem a little bit to give it a little more animation. Otherwise it'll just be a straight stem. I want to take it up to that line. I like to have my stem always resting on the bottom like that so it doesn't break as easy when you display it. Okay, see what we did now? We got a little movement in there. We got a curve in the bottom and then tapered down on the top edge. And I'm going to round the edges of the stem in here. With this same drum center, I'm going to remove a little bit at a time. Okay. All right, so we're going to go over the whole dish, all over, even the stem too. We got to smooth that out and blend it all in everywhere. And I'm using right now. I'm going to be using a 180 grit sandpaper, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to take a sanding pad like this. And we're going to go over the whole thing. So first of all, let's go ahead and go with that 180, and then I'll show you how we use this pad, okay? All right, here we are again. We're going to go ahead and use the pad. This pad is it's got a sticky back sandpaper, and it's just a rubber pad. But what I like about it is you can fold it really good and get in some areas that you typically wouldn't be able to get, without this, and put a lot of pressure on there to clean it out real nice. Face surface first in here. Just go everywhere we've done sanding. Go back in there, fold it like this, get in those areas. It's really a neat pad. I really like using this. Get in those valleys in there and clean them really nice. Round the edges up a little bit, just to break that sharp edge. You want to break that down a little bit. Okay, we'll turn it over and do the other side also, and let's get a nice smooth finish. I'm using a 220 Grit Sandpaper right now. Boy, that leaves a nice smooth surface. I think I got pretty much the whole dish now, and we're gonna go and then take it to the next step, okay? Okay, the next step is to draw the vein lines we're going to cut into the carving, and I typically always start with the center line. That's the one you want to draw first. I never do straight lines. You don't want to do straight lines because it looks like a stick lines. What you want to do is start from the top, bring your line, run it down, and all the way up to the center of the stem like that. That's the first line you draw. And then come back from the center line and curve your lines. You want to curve them like this. Always make a curve like that. You don't want them stick lines, otherwise it would look like sticks. So you want to get a nice artistic look to your leaf, and add a nice flowing lines like this, right in there. And then I'm going to every point that I have on my leaf. That's what I'm doing. Not the smaller ones, but the larger ones. And I keep going like this, curving my lines like that. I'll put another one in here, like that. Another one in there. I'm gonna go ahead and put one here in this small one here. I think so it doesn't look so empty there, or too much space, empty space. There. And I'm gonna match this ones up. Join them up here, curve them down, doing the same thing all the way around. And then the last one here. Okay, so now we got the main lines on the leaf, and then we're gonna also draw the smaller vein lines, which is in here, in here, and then put as many as you like. There's no number amount you should have. You just use your own idea how many you want. Just go in there and add some. And these are just reference lines. You don't even have to follow them. If you think you got too many, just don't do them all. But go ahead and draw some in there, and then carve what you think you want to have. There you have. You know, if you don't think that's enough vein lines for you, you can add additional ones, branching from the smaller ones, and go like this and add another one there to fill it up. If it looks too empty there, add another one there. You can do that all the way around, or just, you know, you don't want to make it too busy. But if you like that look, then go ahead and use your artistic license to create the leaf you want to create. We're going to use what we call the 750. It's a flame-shaped carbide tip, but it's really a neat little tool. I've used it for a long time. I use it for a lot of different things, but what we're going to do is use the tip of this tool to create these lines. We're going to drag it, and you notice I'm doing a drag stroke all the way across. I'm not going to use it upright like that. If you try doing that, you're going to realize that it's going to go out of control. So you kind of want to drag it and anchor yourself as you're doing that. You want to drag it across and try to do one continuous line if you can. In some areas you'll have to stop, but try to get right in track again and create those lines, and then we're going to come back. I'll start with the center line, and a lot of times what I'm doing is, instead of moving the tool across, I'll move the leaf at a certain point. I'll move the carving instead of the tool, and just still keep my tool in contact with the carving and drag it across like that, because you'll only be able to drag your arm so far, and then you can move the tool. Makes it a lot easier to create that. So I'm going to start right at the tip. Drag it all the way across. Okay, that's my first line. Don't get too worried if you go off track on the line. The line's there just for reference, but it'll still look pretty natural. You know, things in nature are not perfect, and they're always all different. They're never going to be two alike. So we'll go ahead and start with this one. When you're doing the ones on the side, the longer ones, try not to cross over that line. It doesn't look good. So I'd rather be shorter from that line than to be over the line. So just kind of go in there, drag your tool. See what I'm doing? I'm just dragging them across. Keep going. See, now I moved the leaf as I was going to create that nice flow and line across. So I'm going to do the same here. Nice flowing lines. Getting all the long lines first, and then we'll go and do the short ones. Okay, we got those main lines. Now we're going to do the smaller ones. And these are kind of fun. They're short, and you just kind of, what you're trying to just curve them. Go like this. And then pick the tool up to create a point, a sharp point at the end of those little branches. See what I'm doing? I'm picking it up as I'm coming out. And that creates a nice point. Otherwise, you're going to have a square edge. You don't really want that look. Now, I talked earlier about adding some more. Like in here, it looks kind of empty a little bit. You can go ahead and add maybe another one in here. And then add another one tied into that one like that, just to fill those areas in. You might want to put another one in here and add another little branch in, just to kind of fill some areas if you feel, you know, it looks too empty in an area or too much space. Okay, we're gonna go to the next step, and what we're gonna do, if you notice, after you carve all those vein lines, you have a little bit of fuzz build up on there, or little burrs from the tool, left from the tool, from cutting into the wood. So what I do to clean that up is I take a little defuzzing pad that I make myself. It's some Scotch-Brite paper. I like using this maroon color one. What I do is I take and cut out some about 1 inch square pieces. I'll take this thing and cut it all the way across, and then I'll cut about 1 inch square pieces, and I'll cut a bunch of them, have them ready for me for when I need them. So what I do then, I take this square pieces and I poke a hole through the center of the square pieces for both of them, and then I use a mandrel with a little screw on top, and I run my stem through there, and then I just tighten the screw with the little washer on top and on the bottom, and you create a nice mandrel. They're square when you put them in there. You don't have to run them. They'll turn around after you use it after a while. So once you get that thing all rigged up, then you can go ahead, and I'll show you what we do. We take it, put it on the ram right here, and we're going to go and deburr or defuzz all that in there. So just go through every line, and then we'll come back after we're done with this and come back with the sanding pad that we were using earlier and give it a nice sanding to get all those pencil marks that we might have missed when we were carving, that we didn't get right on the line. So we want to make sure we get all those pencil marks out of there. So let's start off with the defuzzing pad here. What's nice about it is it gets in them grooves and gets all that dust out of there too. Let's go back and forward. Clean it up real nice. See, it even removes those pencil marks. We're going to use the same sandpaper 220 grit and go over the whole area again. Everywhere you carve some of those veins, you want to go back, just smooth sand everything. At this time I'm going to go ahead and sand the stem too, get it all nice and smooth. Get all those sharp edges around the leaf too. Get them all nice and smooth, not so sharp. So what I'm going to do is, because I filled those grooves again with sawdust, I'm going to go ahead and go real quick and buzz through the whole thing one more time with this defuzzing pad. You'll see all that dust come out of those grooves in there. Okay. All right. Okay, when we come back, we'll take you to the next step, okay? Okay, so we're going to go into the finish now. And what we're going to finish it with is we're going to use a Minwax Natural. It's a 209. And this is a stain that doesn't have any coloration to it. It's a natural stain. So I use it a lot for a lot of different of my carvings. So we're going to go ahead and open the can up and apply it to the whole leaf. I'm going to start with the face side first, and then we're going to go to the other side. So I'm just taking a rag, any old rag will work. Go in there and start just getting it in all the grooves in there. Man, you'll see that grain come out really nice. I'll show you what I got here. See that? So we'll go in here too. Make sure we get it thoroughly everywhere, all the cracks. You'll see the nice grain come out, and boy, really adds a lot. So what I'm going to do is continue heading all the way around, and then what we're going to do is turn it over and do the other side. And then once we do the other side, once we get the stain on the other side also, we're going to come back and we're going to spray it with a matte finish. I like using the Rust-Oleum brand. I really like this. It's a real thick layer of a matte. I don't want to use a clear finish. Make sure you don't get a high gloss unless you prefer high gloss, but it takes away a lot from the natural wood. So I just like getting a nice sheen to it, and just so you can dust it. It doesn't collect so much dust, but I use the matte finish. So when you come back, you'll see the finished product. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over and do the other side, and then we'll come back and show you the finished product, okay? So we're back now, and as you can see, I already did the clear finish, let it dried, and we did both sides. And so now that we got all that done, we're all set to go. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned something today and increases your enjoyment of wood carving.